we are sponsoring this event along with Chester County Marching Forward, the Empower Pack PA, Way Forward from Phoenixville, Red, Wine, and Blue, the Black Women of Chester County in Action, Chester County Unified, and members of the Coatesville City Council. So thank everybody for being here today. And we are going to get started with we have a lot of speakers. A lot of people have offered to speak today. So we're going to start. And I'm going to start actually with me because most people, whether you know it or not, have a story. And I have a story. About 21 years ago, I had my first pregnancy shortly after I got married. And I it was ectopic. So I noticed something was wrong. I went to the emergency room and I learned that it was not viable. I didn't really know what it was. That was my first pregnancy. And so I was told that it could be, there's zero chance for a embryo to develop in the fallopian tube. So I had to have it terminated to save my life. And I was lucky that I had a methotrexate medicine, which helped terminate the pregnancy. They saved my tube. I didn't have to have surgery. And 6 months later, I got pregnant with my son, Aiden, who is now almost 20 years old and is a wonderful, functional, sentient human. And unfortunately, after that, I had another pregnancy loss where it was an incomplete miscarriage where I had to have a D&C. And after that one, I had my other son, Liam, who is a junior in high school, about to finish up his junior year. So my story worked out because had I not had those losses or had to go through that traumatic experience, I wouldn't have had my children. It was not the same as losing a child that you can hold in your arms and see and nurse and all of that. So my story is very common. It's a very common thing for an ectopic pregnancy to occur, and it occurs in 2% of all pregnancies, which and also it accounts for 4% of all first-term pregnancy-related deaths. So my point is that even though we for me, it was never about a choice. But for many women, no matter what reason, you don't even have to have a reason. It's about your body. It's about how you control what happens to you, what choices you need to make for your own personal decisions. And right here now in PA, we are hanging on to this by a thread because we have a very Republican legislature that would love to pass some of these laws that they are passing in other states that we see that have gone to the Supreme Court and such. So we really need to work hard this year to get make sure that Josh Shapiro gets to be our next governor. We need to re-elect Representative Houlahan, and we need to flip some of these seats in our state legislature, and we but also have to flip that seat that Pat Toomey is vacating. And with that, I would like to hand it over to the mayor of, and also before I forget, I did want to singers that we have here, which are Lisa Jeanette, Megan Carey, and Marian Halliday. Thank you so much. It's been great. And also, if I could thank Susan Miner from Chester County Marching Forward, and my fellow Indivisibles, Rob Cates, Hetty Ginter-Ryder, and Mayor Phil Dague. So with that, I would like to introduce the Mayor of Westchester, who thank you for letting us be here in your town, and this is Lillian DeBaptiste.
That's right, bring it up. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. See you all. Good morning, good afternoon. This is call and response. I say good morning, you say good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I can speak louder. I'm used to shouting at children, my own. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate your presence here in Westchester today. Well, I'd like you to, I watched this on TikTok, and on TikTok, the kids have a way, they have this thing, and it says, show me you're a senior without telling me you're a senior. Tell me you're a mom without telling me you're a mom. And I would say to you today, show me you care for women and children without telling me about Roe versus Wade. Tell me about what you've done for women and children without telling me about Roe versus Wade. Tell me about your politics and who you voted in without telling me about Roe versus Wade. Because here we are today. Here we are. We didn't like Hillary. Maybe you didn't like her pantsuits, her hairstyle. She had none. Maybe you didn't like the fact that she stood by her man who was a jerk. Maybe it was about the emails in Benghazi, but 52% of women voted for Trump and 42% in the next election. So have you had enough yet? Do you realize that there are consequences to our actions? And now we stand here in the middle of these consequences? One thing that the other party has looked at is the long game. Years ago, they looked at the statistics and said, whoops, we won't be in power. And now we have to do what we can to be in power. Because make no mistake about it, it's about power over your bodies, it's about power over where you vote, it's about power over who you love, it's about power. It's about power. That's what this is about. Now we can talk about Roe versus Wade, but people, look at the long game. Because we're in it. And this is war. And so we can't be about talking about it, we have to be about it. And in 2020, we were in a pandemic. And we all sat at home and we bemoaned the fact that our vacations were scuttled, you because you got to go on vacation. And our Sunday brunches were done away with because you got to have Sunday brunches. And that we couldn't, socialize like we wanted to socialize, and our children couldn't go to the camps, they had to stay with us. Ugh. And we bemoaned that fact. And then we had a wake-up call when May 25th hit, 11 days away, 2 years later, and George Floyd was killed. And all of a sudden, the consciousness of America was woke. We were woke. And I am thankful that all of us became woke. I am thankful. And during that time frame, we had allies. Because all of a sudden, America realized that maybe there was something to what black and brown and immigrant people were saying. There was something to this unfairness and injustice we were talking about, and we had allies in each of you here today. But make no mistake about it. We don't need you as allies anymore. We need you as accomplices. You need to be accomplices. That means, what does that mean to you? That means you have to get your pedicures and manicures dirty. You have to get down in it. Whether it's in the big ways or the little ways, you can make a difference. You know, back in slavery times, black women were wet nurses to white babies and girls. That was common practice. We were wet nurses. You know, we took care of the masses' children. Today, guess what? With the formula shortage, you all need to tell your children and grandchildren to be wet nurses. Because there is this formula shortage, and who do you think that's going to affect? Those in poverty, those in the inner city, those who are in a food desert. So whether you do something little by just pumping extra, now I can't pump nothing. But if you have children and grandchildren and nieces, they can provide formula. You can get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what that means is have the tough conversations. Talk to your husbands, talk to your brothers, talk to your sons, talk to your nephews. You can gather together now? Well, you need to gather them up and say, listen, I count, my body counts, and this is what you're going to do for me. You can clap for that, because we need to have our boyfriends, our husbands, our sons as allies, as accomplices. It is about us standing together. It is about all of us standing together and seeing that we are all in this together. We are all in this together. We can divide ourselves superficially by race, by culture, by income, but the truth of the matter is we are all in this together. I need you, and you need me. And so what I would like to say, because I don't want to take up all the time, but girl, give me a platform, I will talk to you. What I'm saying is this, and I am going to say it. I have two more things to say. First of all, maybe three, but because I can't count. But first of all, it is important that we get everybody to get out the vote. We have to get out the vote. And that means you tell me you care about me because you vote for affordable health care. You vote for paid leave. You put people in office that can vote for people who are in poverty, not just people who look like you, people who look like me, people who, tell me you care by sending money to the Ukraine, but send money to Haiti too. Send money to those people in Africa. They're still not eating right, the children. So tell me you care by reaching across aisles, by standing together. We have to realize we have to stand together because we're all in it, and we have to stop thinking that someone else is going to do it for us. And I will end, because I get the privilege of saying that Congressman Houlahan is next. But I will end by saying this, because sometimes you got to say it so people hear it. Sometimes you have to say it so people understand, and I am going to tell you what the best queen of drag queens says, Miss RuPaul. Step your pussy up.
Thank you, Mayor, for that really, really inspiring speech. I am confident that I won't be nearly as inspiring and emphatic, but I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to be here. I really want to thank Chester County Marching Forward. I want to thank Red, Wine, and Blue, Pennsylvania, Empower Pennsylvania, and the Way Forward, and Chester County Unified for organizing this really, really important rally. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today, especially the little people and especially the allies who aren't necessarily women in the crowd. Thank you for spending your Saturday with us on this really important topic. Today we are gathered here and we are unified with one voice, and we're here to do one thing, which is to defend women's rights, our rights. We've known, speaking of the right, long ago that the right had an intention to gut Roe versus Wade and to take the right to choose away from us, away from women. But still, when I saw the leaked Supreme Court briefing last week, my heart sank, as I'm sure all of yours did as well, and I see the emotion on the faces in the crowd as I was standing and watching you all. My heart sank because government-mandated pregnancy hurts countless women. It is being forced by simply out-of-touch politicians who want you to carry out pregnancy when people are simply not ready or possibly not able. So I'm going to tell you a couple stories. I'm going to change the names of our constituents, but two women who I spoke with yesterday who I think really exemplify what the stakes are right now. Women like Dee, who I spoke with yesterday, she called very concerned. Her daughter had been born extremely prematurely, and her daughter was still in the NICU when she, Dee, discovered that she was pregnant again. She made a gut-wrenching decision, along with her husband and along with her rabbi, that she simply could not manage to carry this second pregnancy, given both her own precarious health at the time and that of her newborn still in the NICU. Her newborn did survive and indeed thrived, and that newborn is now a grown woman herself. And now Dee is calling my office, worried that her daughter will not have the very same bodily autonomy that she did when she was a young mother. The second story that I'll tell you is because of the precedent that the Supreme Court's decision would set, which would overturn other freedoms and other liberties that we have collectively fought so hard for. Freedoms such as marrying the person whom we love. I also spoke yesterday to a woman who I'll refer to as Kay. She called because she's concerned about her marriage. She and her wife have been married for 10 years, and she was worried that this, like Roe v. Wade, was going to be the next right, the next freedom that would be eliminated because of the Supreme Court's obvious willingness to overturn precedents such as Roe. She's not wrong to worry. That is not impossible that it will happen. America's story has been one of progress and growing inclusion, and I literally cannot remember, and I struggled whether I could, any single time in our nation's history when we have taken away fundamental rights from so many people. And we need to be clear here. Criminalizing abortion will not stop abortions. It will just prevent safe abortions from happening. And it will cause women to travel countless miles to find their nearest provider. Because there will be no common rules in our country. A woman's bodily autonomy should not be determined by her zip code, and it should not be determined by her ability to pay. And we know, as the mayor said, that this will very much so disproportionately hurt those who are most vulnerable in our society already. So in summary, if we don't save Roe or we don't enact legislation, women will be hurt. Let me tell you that again. Women will be hurt. And I also want you to hear loud and clear that it's not just women that will be hurt. It's every single person that will be hurt as a result of this. And so sometimes I joke with you all that I'm the Eeyore, and there are so many Tiggers out there in the world, and so I've kind of given you a lot of dreary consequences and a lot of dreary conversations. But here's where I can offer you hope and be your Tigger for a minute. Before running for Congress in 2018, my very first foray into political activism, I was working with many of you here who we were out renting buses and traveling to Washington, D.C., as you might recall, for the Women's March, because we knew that Donald Trump was a danger to our country. We, along with many of the sisters and brothers who are standing here today, and along with many sisters and brothers across the country, we came together in protest because we knew that when we stood together, we couldn't be ignored, and we weren't. We then rode a wave with brave, brave women at its crest, many of them who are here on this dais or in this audience today. We rode a wave of momentum to historic electric and electoral victories in 2018. We re-elected Governor Wolf. We flipped this congressional district for the very first time since the Civil War. And we took back the United States House of Representatives. When the stakes were high, we showed up. We saved our freedoms, we saved our democracy, and we saved our country. So, what can we do now? What will we do now? And many of these are the things you've already heard. In 2022, we need to stand up once again, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Many competitive races for legislative elections are in play right now. We have the opportunity to flip the state chamber, which is where, unfortunately, much of this legislation will be happening. We have some awesome candidates in the audience right now who are hoping that you will be energized and activated to help them. We have a governor's election. We have the opportunity to elect Josh Shapiro, who has vowed to veto any anti-choice legislation that comes across his desk, which the Republican legislature will likely push Texas-style laws on our state. And we have an open Senate election, which we've mentioned as well. One of the very few races in the entire country where we can actually pick up a Senate seat and increase the chances of passing federal laws as well. And right here in this very, very battleground congressional districts, where Republicans can and will throw everything that they have at flipping this seat back to the red column, we have the opportunity to protect and defend this territory too. So these are all must wins, every single last one of them, and we will only do that if we achieve them together. Unfortunately, we've seen throughout our history, and we're seeing it in Ukraine play out live right now, that universal rights are only achieved when the committed stand together and we demand them. So our story is littered with people who have stepped up and acted. Women like Harriet Tubman, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Alice Paul, Sally Ride, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and so many, many others. So now it's our turn, and here's what we have to do. We have to vote. We have to vote in the primary. That is this Tuesday, May 17th. I don't care who you vote for. Please just vote on May 17th. Pick whoever inspires you, whoever you want to represent you. But then, when that happens, we must quickly unite. We must quickly pivot. We must quickly engage in the general election. Because we need you to get out the message in our communities. We need you to knock doors. We need you to make phone calls. We need you to send texts. We need you to put out signs. And then in October and November, we must vote. We must get active. We must get engaged, and we must stay loud. So I'll say it again to all of you all, never in our country's history has a basic right been taken from such an enormous segment of our population. A Supreme Court that is stacked and a truly radicalized Republican Party that wants to take away the right to bodily autonomy and to many, many other rights. But we cannot let that happen, not on our watch. So please, let's hustle, let's fight like we've never fought before, and let's win, not just for ourselves, but for our children as well, and for our democracy. And with that, I thank you.
Thanks so much, Congresswoman Houlahan. Our next speaker I'd like to introduce is Danielle Friel Otten, my friend from the 155th District as our state rep.
Thank you, Shannon. Good afternoon, Chester County. Can I take this off? Oh, I can't. I'm going to stand over here a little bit. Sorry. I can't see everybody's faces. It's not fun to talk when you can't see people's faces. Sorry. Even better. Of being a little bit too comfortable, feeling a little bit too safe. And I say this often in Chester County, maybe life's just a little bit too good for us some days around here. In 2018, I stepped in with a large group of women here in Chester County and across this Commonwealth. And we made a wave. We made a big blue wave. But that wave wasn't just a headline. It wasn't just cute to tell the story about. That wave has made a huge difference. I serve in Pennsylvania's state legislature. Where bans on women's bodily autonomy are a bipartisan directive. Where before 2018, when women took the podium, there were 35, 40 Democrats that would join Republicans to restrict women's access to health care. And I'll never forget the first time I had to stand on the floor and talk about a very, very personal story that my family experienced. And when I walked off the floor, and we only had 15 Democrats that joined the Republicans that time, one of my colleagues, a man, coming up to me and saying, I just want to thank you. I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for running. I want to thank you for having the courage to share your story, because I was going to vote yes today, and I voted no. Electing women matters. Electing women matters. It's how we change the game. Because I want to tell you something. I'm sure, are there any women who were out there marching in 1973 here today? How mad are you? How mad are you? I do not want to be in the streets defending my daughter's right to control her body in 2050, 2030. I want to make sure we take care of it this time. And the way we do that is by electing more women. Because it's not enough to have people who are going to push the button the right way. We need women who are willing to stand up, to tell our stories, to help people understand why and change hearts and minds in this country. And it's not just at the state level or at the congressional level, but it's at the school board level and the township level. And so a lot of people today are going to talk about what we have to do at the top of the ticket, what we have to do this year in the midterm, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what we did here in Chester County in 2021. In 2021, we all saw how extremism that is a consequence of electing people who can be on TV and speak that way about women, becoming president, can affect our kids and our school boards. And so myself and a group of moms, some of our Chester County Marching Forward ladies, some of our Democratic Committee women who would go to school board meetings completely appalled by what was happening, decided we were going to do more. We were going to step up. We started Empower PA. We raised money. We organized. And we made sure that we flipped Westchester Area School District School Board, and we kept Downingtown School Board blue. Because we can't take any days off when we're in the streets after we thought we took care of this in 1973. We can't take any days off. So I'm going to wrap it up. That's okay. And I'm going to ask everybody, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? I need you to do more than vote. I need you to do more than vote. Are you going to go knock doors? Are you going to host a fundraiser? Are you going to call every single one of your friends on Tuesday and make sure they got their butt to the polls and they voted? Are you going to call your kids at college? Are you going to call your kids at college and make sure they're either driving home on Tuesday or they better get their mail-in ballot in? We cannot afford to leave one vote on the table. Not one vote on the table. Every single vote, we're going to fight, we're going to win, and we're going to protect our girls and our birthing people in Pennsylvania, and we're going to make sure that we are free people in Pennsylvania and across this country. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is our current recorder of deeds and a candidate for the state rep in the 156th district, Chris Pielli.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for all coming out, and thanks to everyone that put this together in such a short time. Folks, we're here today united in the basic premise that all women and men are created equal. And the pursuit of happiness starts with the basic premise of you have the choice what you do with your body, free from government overreach. But unfortunately now we face across the field a political Taliban. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right, so unfortunately now we face across the field a political Taliban that seeks to diminish your rights and your freedoms, the basic essence of who we are. These same people, these same folks, they're trying to relegate more than half of our population to second-class citizenry and force them to produce babies as if they're livestock. Mind you, folks, these are the same guys going around saying, "My body, no mask." Right. Yeah, there's that. Yet they're willing to subject your wives, your daughters, your mothers, possibly to bear the child of your rapist. It's inconceivable. Men, do you hear that? That's the type of abortion laws they have in Texas, and that's what's pending in Harrisburg if we lose control. Step up, men. Step up. Stand up. Fight for your women. It's time. I can't sugarcoat this for you. It's go time. And if some Doug Mastriano idiot comes up to you and tells you that this is a good idea, you tell him to get a vasectomy. That's right, Doug. Do us a favor. Speaking of Doug and his supporters, they will tell you that God is on their side. That's true. But last I checked, our founding fathers said that there's a separation of church and state. What kind of God are they speaking of? I don't understand this angry God. How can anything so medieval and cruel be attributed to something sacred? What happened to a living God, a forgiving God, an understanding God? Doug Mastriano, you worship your God in your way, and I'll worship in mine. In the meantime, you keep your filthy hands, your seditious filthy hands off my wife, off my daughter, and off my friends. These people are hypocrites. They're shameless. They're modern-day Pharisees. How many of their elected officials have we seen cry about the sanctity of life? They evoke the Almighty, and then they ask their mistresses to secretly abort. So here's the problem, folks. They're privileged. They can afford a secret, safe abortion. But how about those millions of hard-working folks that can't? How about those victims of incest and rape that are faced with that difficult decision of getting a back alley abortion or just living the consequences of a changed life? I've got news for these radical Republicans. Overturning Roe will not stop abortions. Overturning Roe will stop safe abortions. And that's not pro-life. That's not pro-life. So for some of you out here who think this may not affect you, that this line of reasoning, this judicial line of reasoning for these right to privacy type cases won't affect you, well, I'm here to give you some bad news. It will. Justice Alito was clear in his reasoning that if it isn't specifically written in the Constitution of the United States, well, then it's unconstitutional, and you have no right to it. So folks, there goes the Equal Marriage Act. There goes the right to marry someone outside of your race, like my wife and I. It's all there. And so many other rights that we enjoy, that we fought so hard for over decades, struggling. It's all on the table. But folks, make no bones about it. Just think of this reasoning. These folks are telling you that you can't marry the person you love, but you're going to be forced to carry your rapist child. It's crazy. It's mad. And they call us extreme. So what I'm here to tell you is that these folks are trying to bring us back to a dark time in our history, a time when many of us were marginalized, many of us were diminished. We can't go back. We need every single one of you. It's time to take the gloves off. It's time. There's no reaching across the aisles on this one, folks. It's time to fight. Fight for your rights. We need you. Everybody up here that was speaking. Everybody up here is speaking, whether they're going to Washington like Chrissy, whether they're going to Harrisburg like Danielle, they're going to fight tooth and nail for you, and they're never going to give up on you. They're not going to let us go back. We got to go forward. We got to fight. So let's make a solemn vow and a promise here today. Let's promise. Let's promise each other And we will fight for our democracy. We will fight for our republic and for which it stands. We will fight for each other, and we shall never surrender. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Chris. Now we're going to have a little musical interlude here with our musicians, Lisa, Megan, and Marian.
I don't know, musical interlude suggests that we don't expect you guys to participate, but we do. So don't get complacent out there. We see what happens when we get complacent. Can you move this to me? So I'm going to do a quick song for you, and then my buddy Megan is, and then Lisa's going to come do some stuff later. But I don't know about you guys, but when Obama was in office, I was feeling pretty good about myself. Then something happened in January of 2017 that I just still haven't gotten my head quite around. But I wrote this song because I think if you have the same questions I have, you can sing along with me. There's some repeated questions here I think we'll all share. And my buddies here, the last time we did this was pre-pandemic, so let's see if we remember the song. What harm can one man do? Right? What harm can one man do? What harm, what harm, what harm, what harm, what harm can one man do? Go ask the Cambodian
raise our voices, especially when we raise them together, we are heard. So let's go out there. We've earned a voice 100 years ago. We earned very hard fought and won a voice. So go out and use it. On Tuesday, go out and use it. Go out and vote. Be heard. This song is for all of you out there brave and bold enough to speak up and ask for what you need, ask for what you want, and make things happen. This is called River Rock. I'm a witch, baby. I'm not a girl. I have spent some decades rattling around this world. I am not the next new thing. No, I've been here too long. I have spent my life turning stories into song. I am not silver. I am not gold, no precious metal for you to mold. I am a river rock, tumbled smooth by the rush of life. This life I choose. I am a river rock, tumbled smooth by the rush of life. This life I choose. Prison lens as I make this journey closer to its end. Returns I'm troubled by much of what I see, but I won't waste my breath declaring you've done this to me. I am not silver, I am not gold, no precious metal for you to mold. I am a river rock, tumbled smooth by the rush of life. This life I choose. I am a river rock, tumbled smooth by the rush of life. This life I choose. Every step along the way, I made my own choice. Choose the truth. That's how I found you. I am not silver. I am not gold. No precious metal for you to mold. I am a river rock. I am a river rock. Tumbled smooth by the rush of life. By the rush of life, this life. Can you sing that with us? I'm a river rock, yeah, I'm a river rock. Tumbled smooth by the rush of life. By the rush of life, this life. I am not silver, I am not silver. I am not gold, no precious metal. No precious metal for you to mold. I am a river rock, I am a river rock. Tumbled smooth by the rush of life, by the rush of life, this life. I am a river rock, I am a river rock. Tumbled smooth by the rush of life, by the rush of life, this life I choose. One last time all together, I am a river rock. Tumbled smooth, I want to hear you, by the rush of life, this life I choose. That's right, we choose. Thank you.
Hey everybody, let's give a big thank you to Megan and Marian for singing. That was the second time I heard that song River Rock this week, and wow, it's like on my playlist in my head now. I'm Kim Andrews. I'm the new executive director of the Fund for Women and Girls here in Chester County. I am pretty thrilled about this. I'm on my, I think, 15th day of being the executive director here, so it's been exciting with this ruling coming out, or draft ruling. We at the Fund read the leaked draft Supreme Court opinion reversing Roe versus Wade with trepidation and horror. Reproductive rights are human rights, and we unequivocally support these basic human rights. Woo! As a coalition member of the Pennsylvania Campaign for Women's Health, the fund works alongside our partners throughout the Commonwealth to advance healthier, brighter, and safer futures for all women and girls. All women, all of us, are vulnerable to the possible withdrawal of this primary right of bodily autonomy, but the people who will be most harmed by restrictions on reproductive health care will continue to be Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, people with disabilities, people in rural areas, young people, immigrants, and those having difficulty making ends meet, all people who face systemic barriers to care right now. I have felt that vulnerability in my youngish adulthood. I was a poor single mother struggling to raise 3 young children alone, and I was able to rise with the help of family and friends and social and economic and health programs. Another child would have sunk my family, leaving us with no way out of poverty, and I surely would not be here today. The fund stands behind our grantee partners, many of them who are here today, who provide critical women's health care services, and we will continue to support and uplift them and all women and girls during a time when reproductive rights are under attack. Together with you, the fund ensures that women and girls have resources and opportunities to thrive. We have excellent organizations in our community and across the Commonwealth focused on protecting women's rights, but what can we as citizens with do with reproductive rights under attack? Other speakers have said it. We're all here today to show with our bodies and our presence how important this is to us. How can we empower women to ensure their advancement socially, economically, and wellness to protect their bodily autonomy? We can elect more women to office at the federal, state, and local level. The primary election is in Pennsylvania this Tuesday. The midterm elections are on Tuesday, November 8th. We need to elect officials who will protect women's reproductive rights as they advance the well-being and self-determination of women and girls. And we need women to run for office. I actually met Chrissy Houlahan many years ago at a Ready to Run program, and she was just considering running, and meeting her again here today was really just kind of like a dazzling moment where it all came around, of women preparing to run and then showing up and then serving. So what difference does it make to elect more women to office? It matters on the issues. Women legislators of both parties are more likely to advance and define women's issues more broadly than men, put them at the top of their legislative agendas, and take a leadership role in those areas. That way, bills dealing with children, education, and healthcare become legislative priorities. It matters in the legislative process. Women rely on a wider range of individuals in formulating policy that allows for more nuanced and thoughtful policy making. It's common for female elected officials to consider how legislation will affect women beyond their own districts, seeing themselves as representing women from all over. It matters in constituent service, impact, and involvement. Women legislators believe they need to help other women transcend barriers to success. They bring citizens like you and me into the political process to help identify, develop. Louder? Oh. I'll get real close, okay. Women legislators believe that they need to help other women transcend barriers to success. Thank Megan. They bring citizens like you and me into the political process to help identify, develop, and work on priority issues like reproductive rights. They are more likely to govern in plain sight rather than behind closed doors. And most important, electing women to positions, it matters to society at large. When citizens see women in office, they become more politically engaged and empowered. In states where women's political status is strong, our economic and health status is strong as well. Since women's health and economic security are inextricably linked, we cannot achieve economic or racial justice without reproductive freedom. So what can... So what can we do to empower women? We at the Fund for Women and Girls ask you to vote on Tuesday. Vote in November. Get engaged. Run for office in your township, county, and state. Get elected to row offices and elections positions and school board and other commissions. Make your voice known. Support women who run for office and keep your eye on the prize that makes all other things possible. That reproductive rights are human rights. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Blake Ciresa as the next speaker. She is an accomplished junior at Kennett High School and is part of the Leadership Council of Girl Gov, which is a civic engagement program of the Fund for Women and Girls that provides high school girls an opportunity to learn firsthand about civics, government, advocacy, policy, and leadership. Young women like Blake represent the future of Chester County and this country, and we have to remember that the political decisions made today will most affect her and her peers. Let's welcome her and listen closely to what she has to say.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today, and thank you for giving everyone a platform to speak on this issue. So abortion is an issue that impacts everyone, even if you haven't been faced with the decision yourself. Restrictive policies regulating a woman's right to choose threatens the rights and freedoms of younger generations, while the wounds of older generations still linger. My grandma has lost friends who had no choice and died from illegal abortions, and I know there are millions of other women who have had the same experiences or know someone who has prior to Roe v. Wade. It is imperative that we empathize with all women in their right to choose as we move forward in society. As long as we treat abortion as a dirty word, we continue to inhibit women in their decisions regarding what occurs to their own bodies. I have seen girls at my school shamed and ridiculed by their peers for being pregnant, with no consideration of the individual circumstances and the extremely difficult personal choice of teen pregnancy. While we continue to fight statutory bans on abortion, we should also fight the stigmatization of abortion and other healthcare decisions and respect and support each other's choices. Historically, abortion has always been a class issue. Americans in need are and will continue to be disproportionately affected by abortion bans. We need to recognize the various ways intersecting identities impact reproductive justice, and not simply view reproductive rights through the lens of white, cisgender, straight, upper-class women. Acknowledging the wealth gap in reproductive healthcare accessibility is critical to ensure people in need are not further disadvantaged. This is not just about abortions. Civil rights cases have for years been decided and relied on Roe v. Wade. If this decision is struck down, it threatens not only abortion and a woman's right to choose, but potentially anti-sodomy laws and gay marriage, to name a few. We need to respect each other as individuals and our respective right to make decisions regarding our own bodies and lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. That was great. Our next speaker is Marian Moskowitz, one of our Chester County Commissioners, the chair of our Chester County Commission.
Complicated. Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you today. You know, I was thinking about what I was going to say today, and I started going back in history before me, and remember when they were drafting a Declaration of Independence, and John Adams came home and he talked to Abigail. And what did she say in 1776? Remember the ladies. And here we are in 2022. You have to cringe. And then right on these courthouse steps in 1852, 170 years ago, was the first Pennsylvania suffrage convention. And you know what we fought for? Voting rights and equal pay. We're still not there yet. Right. Like, this is taking too long. I'm getting tired. In the late 60s, early 70s, I was in high school. And we had the Vietnam War. We were burning bras in the streets. We were protesting to get Roe versus Wade passed. We fought. All the schools, they left schools, all the women. The men didn't come at that time, it was just all women. But now, you look around, there are men supporting us all. And I am so grateful for them because we need them. I will tell you that in 1989, and this is my history now, I went to buy a car, and I owned a trucking company, and they would not let me sign on that purchase agreement without my husband being there. They refused. But I found a woman salesperson, and she got it done for me. I really feel a bit, as you do, like yo-yos. Why do they think that they can just toss us aside and take away things that we're entitled to? Nobody is able to tell us what we can do. Ladies, we practically run Chester County. I mean, and while I love Josh and I love Chris, I gotta tell you, women rock in Chester County. But look, sometimes people think abortion is for one reason and one reason only, and they just don't understand. So I want to share just a moment of a story with you to show you what can happen. In 1989, a senator, Gary Peters from Michigan, his wife was pregnant, and at 4 months her amniotic fluid burst and her water broke. She went to the hospital and they told her that if she would go home and rest, it would be aborted naturally. But the baby was going to die no matter what. They went home for 2 days and the poor woman was in excruciating pain. Nothing happened. She went back to the hospital. He said, you have to do something. And they said, I'm sorry, in Michigan, we have a choice as a hospital and we choose not to do it. Go home and rest and it will happen naturally. 4 days later, they went to another hospital who put her in critical care and performed an emergency abortion. She would have died through no fault of anybody's because the hospital refused to do what they needed to do for her safety. This is crazy, folks. We have to remember who we are, what we stand for. I'll tell you what, we need our men with us, and I know your husbands, your boyfriends, your significant others are with you here, but I will tell you, we need a bigger group than just the women. We need Blake's generation, because that was my generation back in 1973. And I don't know about you, but I will not stand still and let this happen to us again, and I want equal pay for equal rights.
That was awesome, Marian.
Thank you, Marian. And now we have our other commissioner here, Josh Maxwell.
I just want to say for the record, Marian and I make the exact same amount of money in county government. You heard Chris speak earlier. I thought it was important. I know my wife's going to come up here in a second to give me some support, but there are 13 folks elected in Chester County government in these beautiful buildings behind me. 11 are women. Let's give them a big round of applause. The other two are just Chris and I. We had the restrooms for ourselves. I woke up this morning and I was thinking about all the things I was going to learn listening to these powerful speakers speak today. And it occurred to me that in 30 days or thereabouts, we're going to be on a mission. We have a good idea about what's going to happen, but we don't know how it's going to impact healthcare for women across the country quite yet. Where they're going to have access to Planned Parenthood and where they're not. And this county took a very leadership role in electing pro-choice candidates like Chrissy Houlahan, flipping congressional districts like that. But I believe very, very strongly that we're going to have to be sharing information from Planned Parenthood with women who don't have access to that information. That means they may need transportation. That means they need to know where they can get safe health care. And I think that 30 days from now, we're going to be looking at each other and leading across this country and making sure that we're getting those transportation assets, getting women to where they need to be safe. But as my wife and I were coming over here today, and my wife Blair's going to walk up here in a second, it occurred to me that about 4 years ago was our first date. And on our first date at a coffee shop in Center City, Philadelphia, she asked me if I was pro-choice. and her hair was pink. She didn't have a shape with the cat ears yet, but her hair was pink, and I answered that I was absolutely pro-choice, and it was on my website. I was mayor of downtown at the time, on the way to run with Marian to be county commissioner. And then one of our first dates was right here on these steps, where she came and listened to me speak at a Planned Parenthood rally, talking to many folks here about how we need to get Chrissy Houlahan elected, how we need to flip the White House, and how we need to help people. So I thought for the remaining minute or two that I have, I'd take that turn and listen to my wife speak here for a minute. So I'd like to introduce my wife, Laufenberg.
Thank you. I'm not Abigail Adams, but I have some thoughts, and I think, my husband knows that I like to talk, and that if I want to speak, he's not going to get my way. So I'm not Abigail Adams. My name's Blair Thornburg. Thornburg. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania really means a lot to me, and I think we tend to get a bad rep outside of our boundaries, that we're Pennsylvania, that we're constantly sliding back in progress, but I don't see that as true. The New York Times has said that Pennsylvania is going to be a battleground on this abortion issue in the coming elections and probably for the foreseeable future. And so I just want to speak to my love of Pennsylvania, and particularly to two men in power. One is Senator Bob Casey. Now, he and I have very little in common. I am a Spitfire liberal. He is a centrist. I can never match his eyebrow game, but we both have the curious designation of having our last names part of landmark court decisions in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that affected reproductive choice. Of course, we all know Planned Parenthood versus Casey. That was Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania versus Casey. And then fewer people know Thornburg versus the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, which was kind of laying the groundwork for decisions that came later. But our senator, Bob Casey, our only Democrat up there, has said that the circumstances have changed. He has always been personally pro-life, but he said that he will support codifying a woman's right to an abortion. And so I want to say thank you, because you know what? This is a complex state. This is a complex commonwealth. I wore my Pennsylvania shirt. We are like America. We have two big coasts full of cities, and then there's a big middle. But there exists within that a lot of people who want to stand up for these rights. And so I thank Senator Casey for re-examining, I think, especially in consideration of his family. And so the other man in power I want to talk to is a guy named Dave. I don't actually know Dave, and his power is that, he's like a voter, basically. I read about him in the New York Times. He lives in Hanover Township, which is outside of Allentown. And he's 63. He's a retired municipal employee, kind of a, John Hugh driveway for one of these Vox Pop pieces. And he said that he's an independent voter, and he's always voted Republican. But in November, he will not vote for anyone who wants to ban abortion rights in Pennsylvania. And that is because Dave's daughter, who is 30, says, "This matters to me, Dad. You cannot let this happen." And he said, "I got no vagina, no skin in the game." And so I remember having a similar conversation with my father, also named Dave. His response was a little less blue. But I want to speak to the people who maybe aren't here, but maybe agree, and say that, in Pennsylvania, we are a diverse state from coast to shining coast, but there are people there who are not comfortable, who are upset, and maybe don't feel like they can be at this rally, but they can vote. And Dave is going to vote. And we're going to get another Democratic senator, and Senator Casey is not going to have to be there up by himself. So come out on Tuesday, and I just want to say, as my shirt would say to everyone here and to everyone across the country, you do have a friend in Pennsylvania. We're here for you. So thank you.
Congregation here in town, and I am here to talk about love and justice. Now, I'm speaking for myself today, but I come from a tradition, a religious tradition that has been active in the movement for reproductive justice for over half a century. And that is important because remember that the religious right does not own this issue. There are many religious voices for choice. So what is going on right now in this country begins with abortion access, but it does not end with abortion access. In too many states, we've seen moves towards criminalizing not only abortion access, but also forms of birth control, even miscarriage. Nobody should be forced into pregnancy and childbirth, not if we believe in love and justice. The government should not use forced pregnancy as a means for controlling human sexuality and curtailing basic freedom. We are here for love and justice, and we reach out in love for victims of sexual assault, human trafficking, domestic abuse, who will be placed in danger because of abortion restrictions. We reach out in love for the many low-income communities and communities of color who will be disproportionately impacted by restrictions on the right to choose. We reach out in love and we demand justice, real justice, not 13th century justice. I know it was a cheap shot, but I couldn't resist. We reach out in love to our transgender and non-binary kin, who will also be impacted by this decision. We see you. We recognize this is your struggle as well. We reach out in love to every person who is afraid right now. Now, this may be a long struggle. We are likely to see some hard times. But as the labor leader Joe Hill once said, don't mourn, organize. The movement to curtail abortion rights has been going on almost my entire life. They've been very, very effective, but they do not represent the majority of this country. Now it is time for us to take a page from their playbook and organize on every level. I saw a little card going around, being passed around on exactly how to do that. Don't just come to a demonstration and say things on social media. Make your advocacy count. Get involved in government, starting at the local level where a handful of voices can make a real difference. Build coalitions, advocate, make a noise right now and vote, but also look ahead, not just to the next election, but decades. We will win. We will win because we are a lasting movement for love and justice with a strong foundation. But we need people at every level of government who understand and who will choose the path of love and justice. It might be a long journey, but we have a long history. And whether you have been part of this movement for decades, whether you're one of those people who marched in 1973 and before, or whether you are just now waking to the need, it is never too late to make a difference. So we have to keep our eyes on the prize and hold on. Now, I was asked to sing today, and I'd like to bring back a song that I wrote 6 months ago, the last time we all stood up here and said these things. In many ways, it's a love song, which I dedicate to every person here and every person that every one of us knows who has had to face the decision of whether or not to have an abortion. It's called Not My Choice, Because as a cisgender man who will never be pregnant, I realize that this isn't my choice. My role is to support the choices of those who are pregnant, to support them, whether it's childbirth, whether it's abortion, whether it's adoption, to support them economically, to support them socially, to support them emotionally. So let me bring over my dulcimer here and we'll sing a song for choice. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to take those, let me just... We'll see how that does. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Hopefully after all that shouting I'll be able to sing this. It's called Not My Choice. Journey, whatever you might need from me, wherever your path lays. You didn't want to be here, it never was your plan. Life can change in seconds, we all should understand. The way is yours to follow, life is yours to lead. You have my love and my trust and care whenever you may need. It is not my choice. It is not my body. It is not my choice. It is not my say, and I will hold your hand through this longest journey. Whatever you might need from me, wherever your path lays. Some will speak of morals, others preach of sin. They have no right to own you or to hold your spirit in. It is not their decision, your body is your own. I know your heart and your wisdom, and you'll never be alone. It is not my choice. It is not my body, and I will raise my voice so you can have your say, and I will sing this song for every woman's freedom. Faith in every woman's mind to choose in her own way. It is not my choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Dan. Our next speaker is Cathy Spahr, who is running for state rep in the 160th district. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Cathy Spahr and I'm running for the 160th House District against a Republican incumbent who voted to force women to bury their fetal remains. We must get rid of him. I don't know about you, but I'm sick of being on the menu, and it would seem as if we are the appetizer, the main course, and dessert right now. And I can't abide by this. I'm going to build on what Minister Dan was saying about all politics is local. In 1991, my dad ran for supervisor of his township in Newtown Square. And the Sunday before Election Day, his opponents went out and flyered the local Catholic church, St. Annie's, declaring that my dad was pro-abortion. He lost by 3 votes. All the local Catholics came out and voted. They have been organizing at every level of government for a very long time now. And we have ceded that ground to them. So my message for you today is that every vote counts, and stop donating to Mark Kelly, because you have candidates right here in Pennsylvania that you can support, because we are ground zero here. We are ground zero, not just for the women of Pennsylvania, but the women of Ohio, the women of West Virginia. We need to make sure we are protecting women. And that, we can't guarantee that that's going to happen on the national level. Forget the national level. This is where our power is, right here in Pennsylvania. So if you're here, guess what? A rally isn't enough. It is not enough. It's not going to move the cold heart of Jake Corman or Doug Mastriano. You know whose hearts you can move, though? The hearts of the voters. So the goal here is today, when you leave this rally, or even while you're here, is to find a candidate and help get them elected. Go knock some doors. Go phone bank. Donate some money. There are so many things that we can do to change the tide right here in Pennsylvania. Because Josh Shapiro can't save us. He can, but he can't. You know, the Senate Republicans right now in Pennsylvania have a bill waiting in the wings to constitutionally ban abortions, and he can't stop that bill. But I can, and Danielle Friel can, and Melissa Schusterman can. But we can only do that. We can only do that if we flip the Pennsylvania State House, and we can't do that alone. I am happy to go knock the doors. I'm happy to do call time and dial for dollars. I'm happy to do all that, but I need your help. Because our freedoms, our privacy, and our future is on the line, and I won't abide by that. So I absolutely expect to see every one of you doing more than just standing here today. So pick your candidate, get behind them, and I'll see you at the doors. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. Our next speaker is Jill Laufenberg, the Executive Director of Wings for Success.
All right.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I currently work with women and girls in Chester County. I partner along other nonprofits that serve vulnerable populations, the unemployed, the underemployed, the single mom who cannot make a livable wage, those who are struggling with homelessness, overcoming addiction, escaping domestic violence. And it's these stories and these women and girls that I have met that helped make me passionate about giving them a voice, but also redefined the definition of what it really means to be pro-life. Because pro-life is more than just a word, right? And those that call themselves pro-life, they know, just as much as we know, that making abortion illegal or restricting it will not end abortions. This will only create more suffering for those in our communities that do not have the same support systems or the resources that the middle class or upper middle class might have. This is not pro-life, my friends. And here's one thing pro-birthers have wrong about us. We are not pro-abortion. Women aren't out there getting pregnant just to end it. No. We do not want any woman or girl to ever be in a situation where they have to make that decision. We also recognize that any later term abortions are the exception, they're not the rule. That 1% of those that are happening, those are occurring out of necessity, and they're often decisions that are tragic and grief-filled for the woman. So let me be clear, if there's any counter-protesters out there or anyone listening on Facebook, we are not standing here celebrating abortions. We acknowledge the seriousness of the issue. It's an incredibly and intense emotional one for us. But please listen closely to what we are saying, our conversations, our signs. Our protests are not about whether a decision gets made, but who decides. We know that once this fundamental right, to make a personal and private decisions is taken away, it will go deeper than just our wounds and deeper than just inside our homes. And those who call themselves pro-life, but recognize the fundamental right for a woman to choose, because they are our neighbors, they are our friends, they are our family members. Please do not sit back. Right now, this is what we are asking of you. We are asking that whatever we decide to do in our home and with our bodies is up to us, our partner, our doctor, and our God. It is not up to the government. We ask you, our friends that recognize this fundamental right to choose, to protect our right to keep the government out of our homes and show that you want to protect this right by taking it to the polls. And while the federal protection of our individual rights might be lost with the Supreme Court, the state battle is going on. And whether you are far left, whether you are moderate, whether you're centrist, I don't care what you call yourself politically. We only care about being unified at this time to win a battle that goes far beyond our bodies. And the reality, my friends, is that much polling shows that broad support is out there for the right to choose. And believe it or not, this includes conservatives and people of faith, and we need to have those conversations with our friends because they need to understand what is at stake here. And they need to understand that when we are fighting for the right to women to choose, that is pro-life. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to welcome Charlotte Valyo, who is the chair of the Chester County Democratic Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for everyone who has sponsored and organized this event. It's been a wonderful afternoon. And the rain held off, which is great, right? Well, I think we all know what is at stake, or you wouldn't be here this afternoon. You're already engaged and energized, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir. 50 years ago, Roe v. Wade became the law of the land, giving us control over our bodies. And as Marian Moskowitz pointed out, I was one of those people that also marched, and I can remember how wonderful we all felt when that decision came down. But now that control is being taken away, and 50 years later, we are still fighting for control over our reproductive rights. It just doesn't seem possible. And you all know, this is a first step. Trigger laws in many states will take effect as soon as the decision is handed down, banning all abortions. Next, as in Texas, which is already investigating parents of transgender children for giving them the drugs necessary to suppress puberty and make their transition easier. As the New York Times said, Pennsylvania is the nation's biggest battleground for abortion rights. Every candidate on the Republican side of the ballot on Tuesday has said they will vote to ban abortions. This is a time to energize, fight for women's rights, but also for the rights of every American. We need to educate and motivate our voters. As has been said, we need to knock doors, we need to phone bank, and we need to donate here in Pennsylvania. We must focus on what we can do now. Elect Josh Shapiro governor. Send a Democrat to the U.S. Senate. Re-elect Chrissy Houlahan. Re-elect our state House and Senate incumbents, and send Cathy Spahr, Chris Pielli, and Paul Friel to Harrisburg. That is what we can do right now, but we cannot lose sight of what is going to happen in the future. Next year, 2023, we will have very important judicial races, and we know now how important those races will be. We will also be re-electing commissioners and electing county row officers as well as local officials. But I want to just speak a minute about the judicial races. These are critical because these are long-term terms. And we will have 5 Pennsylvania, Chester County Court of Common Pleas openings next year. So please, while we're working very hard this year, also take the time to review and get to know the candidates that will be running in the judicial races. But right now, our very democracy and way of life are at stake. We cannot lose our focus. We cannot allow our energy to fade or waver in our determination to prevail. I know that united, we will prevail. We will win. We will win all of these seats. Thank you.
Next up, we'd like to welcome Diane Herring, who is the state rep from 156.
Hi, everybody. I wasn't on the speaker list today, but our mayor asked me to go on because I just have one thing to say. It's been said, but it needs to be said again. As your state representative, I have been on the House floor, and the House of Representatives has passed horrifying legislation. Fetal remains, which means a woman who is having a miscarriage in the privacy of her own home must collect the fetal remains and have them cremated or buried. We had a heartbeat bill, which scientific fact, at 5 or 6 weeks, it's not a heartbeat. There is no heart. It's the first cell that will eventually form the heart, and it starts to give off an electrical signal. So that's a misnomer. But at any rate, we had the heartbeat bill, which is that you cannot have an abortion once there is a quote-unquote heartbeat detected.
We had the Down syndrome bill, which meant that if you were carrying a child with Down syndrome, you could not have an abortion. This is the legislature putting their religious-based lens into the decision that a woman makes in a very private setting along with her partner, her doctor, and as Jill Laufenberg said, her God. So I'm here to say one thing, and that one thing is, if it were not for Governor Wolf, these pieces of legislation would now be law, and we would be worse than Texas. If there's anything we can all do is to support Josh Shapiro and vote. Get every woman you know out there to vote, and every supportive man you know out there to vote, and everyone who identifies as anything, any gender, to get out there and to vote for Josh Shapiro for governor. Thank you. Let's do this. Vote.
I wish I could work a microphone stand.
Susan Minor's going to talk next. She's from Chester County Marching Forward and she pretty much did all the planning for this, so thank you, Susan.
Am I good? Hi, everybody. Susan Minor. I'm jumping in front of Phil, but he's going to finish us out, so we're almost done. I just want to say a couple things, and while I'm talking, some of you have signs that we passed out in the audience. If you could just come up and just stand on the steps, I'm going to read the names of the senators who voted against codifying Roe versus Wade on Wednesday of this week. When I read the name of your senator, you can raise your sign, and we're going to take a look at all these folks who could protect our rights and chose not to. All right, are we ready?
Signs down.
Okay.
Your name is called.
Wait till you get up here. I'll give you a minute to get up, and I'm going to make a comment. If you can remember all the times that we thought somebody else in the last 5 years was going to correct what was going wrong in our government, impeachment number 1, impeachment number 2, the Robert Mueller investigation, etc. None of that worked. The only thing that worked for us was voting. So voting is super important. You're going to see your votes in action in a minute. Okay, I'm going to start reading the names. Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming. Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Roy Blunt of Missouri. John Boozman of Arkansas. Mike Browne of Indiana. Richard Burr, North Carolina. Shelley Moore Caputo, West Virginia. Bill Cassidy, Louisiana. Susan Collins, Maine. John Cornyn, Texas. Tom Cotton, Arkansas. Kevin Creamer, North Dakota. Mike Crapo, yes, there is a senator named Crapo from Idaho. Ted Cruz of Texas. Steve Daines of Montana. Joni Ernst, Iowa. Deb Fisher, Nebraska. Lindsey Graham, South Carolina. Chuck Grassley, Iowa. Bill Hagerty, Tennessee. Josh Hawley, Missouri. John Hoeven, North Dakota. Cindy Hyde-Smith, Mississippi. James Inhofe, I can't say his name, Inhofe, Oklahoma. Ron Johnson, Michigan. John Kennedy, unfortunate name, Louisiana. James Lankford, Oklahoma. Mike Lee, Utah. Cynthia Loomis, Wyoming. Roger Marshall, Kansas. Mitch McConnell, Kentucky. Jerry Moran, Kansas. Lisa Murkowski, Alaska. Rand Paul, Kentucky. Rob Portman, Ohio. James Risch, Idaho. Mitt Romney, Utah. Mike Brown, South Dakota. Marco Rubio, Florida. Ben Sass, Nebraska. Rick Scott, Florida. Tim Scott, South Carolina. Richard Shelby, Alabama. Dan Sullivan, Alaska. John Thune, South Dakota. Tom Tillis, North Carolina. Pat J. Toomey, Pennsylvania. Tommy Tuberville, Alabama. Roger Wicker, Mississippi. Todd Young, Indiana. And did anybody notice who I missed? Joe Manchin, West Virginia. So everybody, get out and vote. All right, thank you. I'm going to introduce our last speaker, and then our singers will sing us out. And our last speaker is going to be Phil Dague, Mayor of Downingtown Borough.
Hi, everybody. Are you outraged? Are you pissed? You know, like, do you remember the last 3 confirmation hearings for Supreme Court? And when the 3 people who are now are justices were asked, how do you feel about Roe v. Wade? And they're like, oh, Roe v. Wade is established law. I would never. I mean, you know, what's up with that? You know, so that, how about the leak that happened? We have some representatives who are more outraged that there was a leak than what the content of the leak was all about. We have done our current generation a big disservice because of our complacency. So, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm definitely speaking about me. 2016, I voted. I'm a super voter, you know. I vote in every election, so, you know, when I tell you something, people listen, right? You know, I don't know, but. And then I woke up that fateful morning and found out that who was president of the United States. And I voted for Hillary Clinton. Period. End of sentence. That was it. That's all I did to help Hillary become president. I didn't have her sign on my front lawn. I didn't talk her up amongst the people in my orbit, my friends, my co-workers. You know, I didn't. I don't think she. God, it was so long ago. She wasn't the candidate I was for at the beginning of the election process. But when the time came, I voted for her, and then she didn't get it, and she lost Pennsylvania. And there's somebody, Jessica Weingarten, a friend of ours, a lot of you know, pointed out to me that a little effort on me and others like me could have really turned that election, and we wouldn't have had to have dealt with those 3 horrible Supreme Court justices that Donald Trump got to make. So if I could find a way to bottle outrage and release it just like the day before Election Day, but just hold that feeling of being lied to, of having your rights taken away from you, and at this time, it's abortion. What's next? We all know something else is coming. We have to say no. We have to stand up for it. We have to vote in every election. We have to do more than just vote. Voting is the most important thing, but we also have to get other people who are complacent and show them You're losing it. While you're sleeping on the couch, they're taking away your rights, and you're not going to do anything about it until it's too late. And then, you know, what are you going to do then? Nothing. So just, you got to get people, we know, everybody here, I'd be shocked if somebody told me that, no, I'm not going to vote on it. No, I know y'all are going to vote, but you need to get out of your comfort zone, knock on doors, acquaint yourself with the campaign or your local committee, and get out there and do it this time and next time. Every election, every primary, presidential election, midterm, in between, it's all important. We need sustained winning at the polls to enact long-lasting, impactful change. The fight that we have right now, the immediate fight that is endangered right now, we should have settled this a long time ago. So we need to fix the immediate danger, and then we need to get down and roll up our sleeves and make sure that your daughters and our granddaughters are going to be having the same protest for the same damn reason for 50 years. Hold that feeling. Hold that feeling. Be a nudge to your friends and tell them, you know, you're not voting. You know, when you vote on Tuesday, you know, whatever, make a post about it. Let everybody, let the whole world think that only really nerds don't vote, you know. So anyway, thank you. Thanks. We had a lot of great speakers today, and we're gonna, thanks to our sister groups who we work with and who have helped Indivisible Chester County put this on here. Nobody does it alone. And thank you to my cohort at Indivisible, Shannon Browne, and she's going to close this out. And we're going to have some good music before we leave. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for all of our speakers. Everyone's great, and our musicians are going to close us out here. What are you going to do on Tuesday? Vote, 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 vote. All right, thank you, everyone.
We got 2 short songs for you. Marian came all the way from Kentucky to be here. Don't hold Mitch McConnell against him. And Megan lives an hour away. I live in Westchester, so this is my home, but they came a long way. So just 2 more songs. This I wrote in 2017. I put it away, and I got it out for this. You're coming at me now with your promises. The ones were not half that you made. You're coming at me now with your alliances. Don't even know what's at stake. Maybe it's been too long. I've been running for some things roll out of my hands.
Let's give up a big round of applause for the people that put this on today. People like this are getting us all involved. Thank God for you all. And this is what we need to do. We all need to gather. We need to work together, and we need to raise our voices on Tuesday and moving forward, right? So right now, I'd like you to raise your voice with us. Every time I sing, raise your voice. I want you to do just that. The song goes like this. I'm singing for our country. I'm singing for our country. I'm singing for our country. Oh, won't you raise your voice with me? I'm singing for our country. Here we go. Raise your voice with me. I'm singing for integrity. Raise your voice with me. Singing for integrity. Raise your voice with me. The truth is not divided. We're strongest when we're unified. I'm singing for integrity. Raise your voice with me. I'm singing for equality. Raise your voice with me. Singing for equality. Raise your voice with me. Oh, equal, not the same. And in that there should be no shame. Singing for equality. Raise your voice with me. This is what I know. When we stand together, our power will grow. This is what I see. We can be the difference. It's up to you and me. I want to hear all of you on this one. I'm singing for our country. Raise your voice with me. Singing for our country. Raise your voice with me. This land is yours because it's strong with open doors. I'm singing for our country. Raise your voice with me. I said I'm singing for our country. Raise your voice with me. Singing for our country. Raise your voice with me. With our voices we are free to be the change we want to see. I'm singing for our country. Raise your voice with me. I said I'm singing for our country. Raise your voice with me. I said I'm singing for our country. Here we go. Raise your voice with me. Thank you guys so much. We can do this if we do it together. Raise those voices at the polls.